You talked about Gene's legacy. What was he proudest of, and what were some things that he really wanted to do that maybe he didn't have the time or he wasn't able to do? What was he proudest of as far as his work?
Well, one thing he really wanted to do is he wanted to be Sky Masterson in Guys and Dolls. So instead of Marlon Brando, you would have had Gene Kelley. But with the studio fighting, the studio heads were having a little tiff between the two studios, and Sam Goldwyn wanted Gene, but they refused. They were having a fight, and so they said, no, you can't have Gene Kelley, even though
no one got along with Goldwyn. He was impossible.
So he really wanted that role. He wanted to be Cyrano de Bergerac, and they wouldn't let him play that, I think because of the nose. They didn't want that. And then he wanted to play Biff in Death of a Salesman, and Elia Kazan had sent the script, and Gene really wanted it, but Elia Kazan never called back. So, most proud, I would say, I think, again, it was very hard. This was not a guy who liked to sit around and watch his movies, but as we ran them, there were things in, particularly I'd say the American Paris Ballet, that he directed the ballet and choreographed and performed in. He said, I am proud of that. And there are interesting moments in Summer Stock and things where he thought that he had done some of the best work.
I remember Debbie Reynolds talking about Gene as the taskmaster on Singin' in the Rain and so on. I mean, this was a man that was serious about his work, and if you worked with him, you needed to be equally serious or you might not be there very long. Talk about him as far as his work ethic and everything he brought to bear in doing what he did, melding dance and film.
Well, it's interesting. You'll often hear of Gene described, and I do talk about this, but as a perfectionist. And he said, well, since when did that kind of take on a derogatory cast? He said, when you go to the surgeon, do you ask for the sloppy guy?
I love that.
And, I think professional might be a better word for it. And you're absolutely right, Alan, that he didn't brook any misbehavior, but he expected the same of everyone that he expected of himself. He was right in there. And yes, Debbie tells fantastic stories about the work, and that's what they are. And if you go to USC and look at the production notes, you'll see what the real account of what really transpired. But no, he was tough, but I think that's one of the reasons you're still watching some of these movies 60 years later. And he had a real sense of precision, and particularly, I mean, because he wasn't behind the camera on this, and he wasn't involved with everything, but on most of the other pictures, he was involved with the lighting, the costumes, the Technicolor. He was matching the colors. He was in editing in the camera. He was choreographing, and he was also doing the rehearsals with the MGM orchestra. He was dubbing the taps. So he was so multitasking. I think that's why in this one, he was just kind of goofing off with Dickie Wharf because he didn't have all those responsibilities.
Did he say anything at all about Gail Sundergaard? Or did he leave that lie?
No, he didn't. He said it about Gladys George. And I don't know what else Gladys George was in. Do you know?
Oh, she was in He Ran All the Way, The Roaring Twenties, you asked, the best years of our lives, and so forth.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. Well, he thought she was a great dame, and that was a really high marks for Gene. So spoke more about her and that.
Mm-hmm. What did Gene like when he was away from the movies and the dance? What did he like to do? What hobbies? What did he do to relax?
To eat cold mashed potato sandwiches.
Okay.
And fried bologna sandwiches. I mean, this is a Pittsburgh kid. You got to remember. Well, at this time, away from the movies, which was very different from the time that we were together, it was volleyball in the backyard and then playing these games to the death. He did everything. He was a great competitor and loved to win. And so he played sports. People often ask if he worked out, how he'd do that. He hated the notion of going to a gym and working out, but he loved to play baseball. He was on the MGM team with Buster Keaton. And
Jay Wagner told me he was quite a tennis player as well.
He was
very competitive.
He was a ratty tennis player. He was the kind. I played with him. I played with Wolfgang Puck and Gene and David Niven Jr. and it was hilarious. Everyone was swearing in a different language. But Gene was the kind of rat who'd go up to and just chop it over the net, and I was trying to rally, and he'd go over and go boom like that. So.
Now, Gene also politically was a pretty robust liberal back in the day, but he did not. He either dodged or didn't get tarred with the blacklist. But a lot of his friends and people that he knew did. Did he talk about that period of his life in Hollywood in the late 40s, early 50s at all?
Well, Gene definitely was not blacklisted, and there's a great deal of mythology out there and a lot of print about that he and his then wife were blacklisted, and Gene said absolutely, repeatedly, absolutely, that was not true. And that the reason they had left to go to Europe was actually for tax reasons, that they were sent. Lou Wasserman decided that several of the stars could go to Europe to use the frozen funds, just like General Motors was sending their employees over. So Gene went abroad because the taxes at that time were about 90%, and they figured this was a way to save on some taxes. So Gene said, I was making far too much money for the studio to be blacklisted. I do have his FBI record. He was considered a security matter C for communism, and the fact that he worked for Roosevelt and Truman, and I mean, if you did anything like that, you were suspect. So, but he definitely was not, and nor was Betsy Blair. So it's, but he said it was just a very, very troubling time, as many of you know. It was just a very, very difficult time as people's lives were absolutely destroyed, but he was safe from that.
That's good. Well, I know that you have some events coming up, and you have something in particular coming up. What is that? And please share it with us.
Well, he's been very kind. The show, some of you may have seen it, the show that I did about Gene at the Academy of Motion Pictures last May. I reprised and did at Lincoln Center in July, and I'm doing it at Chapman University on June 1st, and then I would really like to bring it to Palm Springs. I think there's a considerable audience here. Thank you. So I'm going to say, if you build it, I will come. So if you go to genekelley.org and click on Palm Springs and just register, then I'll know how large a venue to book, and we'll bring the show here, because I think it'd be really fun. It's a very personal story. Marvin Page was there, saw it. He can tell you personally what it was like, and it's a personal look, and it's kind of weaving film clips and very rare audio recordings of Gene. Gene used to sit on the couch and sing to me at night. And he would sing the songs that are in here. Spring will be a little later this year, and it kind of breaks my heart, but it's a way of looking at Gene on Gene. So I think I just encourage you to take a look at that.
Well, I hope everyone will get out and support Patricia Ward Kelley's Field of Dreams with Gene.
Yes.
And we really want to thank you for coming. You are beautiful, you are articulate, and you are a superb guest. And thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
Please thank Patricia Ward Kelley.